let's bring in our powerhouse panel for this Saturday morning with the author of Trump is Not a Racist, and Here's Why, former Georgia congressional candidate Mykel Barthelemy, and advisory board member for Project 21, Christopher Arps, and of course, Allison Maloney here on the couch with us in the studio. All right, so in the wee small hours of the morning, they passed this $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. They're going to send it to President Biden's desk to sign. So here's what's in the bill. It's $110 billion for roads and bridges, $39 billion for public transit, $66 billion for passenger and freight rail, $7.5 billion for electric vehicles, $65 billion for internet access. The list goes on, $25 billion for airports. Mykel, let me start with you. Infrastructure, we were just talking about this, Allison and I. It polls well. Does this stop the Democrats' slide?
No, it actually doesn't. I mean, they're going to continue to push for the larger picture, which you guys were just talking about, the Green New Deal. And these are the poison pills that are packed into that bill. I mean, they want to spend trillions of dollars that they have no idea how they're going to pay it back. But ultimately, I'm afraid that something nefarious is up the wing with the Democrats, because the electric cars, I mean, I know that there's a whole climate change address in this, and also the social policy that they want to push, which we know is CRT, that would critically change the landscape of the way that our children view each other. Yeah.
You know, Chris, Republicans can frame this, though, as a win, in my view, since it was originally some $2 trillion, had a lot more of kind of the social spending aspects in it, a lot more of the Green New Deal stuff in it. Do you think that they're going to be able to, you know, to sort of get a little bit of credit here for passing what people wanted, but rejecting a lot of the stuff that the left, like Bernie Sanders, was really pushing in the original bill?
I think they'll get a lot of credit from the Democrats and the moderates as passing a infrastructure bill, but I think a lot of conservative Republicans are not happy that the Senate and 13 Republicans crossed over to pass this bill. You know, this bill should have been passed in August, and it took 2 months of wrangling by the Democrats with their infighting for finally getting this passed. So yes, it's a victory, but it's a Pyrrhic victory, because the $3 trillion or $1.85 trillion budget bill was not passed along with this,
right.
And that's what the progressives ultimately wanted.
At least not right now. Allison, you're our resident PR expert. Okay, obviously after Tuesday, Democrats have some very, very big problems, and you saw, you know, Chris was just saying that it took months to pass a bill that actually, if you look at the roads and the bridges and stuff, people kind of wanted that, but the far left in the party it has such influence over this. So do you think that the administration is going to be able to use this to sort of spin their way out of Tuesday's losses?
Well, yeah, they're trying to do anything they can to have people forget about what happened Tuesday, but a lot of people will not. You know, it comes down to who's going to pay for this? How is it going to get paid for? So, yes, I think short term, they're going to be able to hang their hat and say, look, we got this done. You know, cities and towns are going to get their money. We're going to build bridges and roads. This is what everybody wants. But we've seen what's happened over the last few months with President Biden and the administration, and you know, between Afghanistan, between inflation, between the supply chain crisis. So what's next? Yeah. So I think this is going to be something that can help them right now, but long term, no. They're in a lot of trouble.
You know, I remember when Obama passed his big bill when he first came in, and he said that these are going to be shovel-ready projects. They're going to create lots of jobs, and then it never really happened. What I'm really interested in here is ultimately how many of these projects are actually going to get built. How long is it going to take? How many jobs will it actually create? Will this money be used appropriately? And I'm not quite sure. Now, you were talking about Tuesday. Political earthquake, folks, this week. Voters rejecting the Biden agenda. But, Mykel, the president says people are confused. Take a listen.
We have to speak to them, though. We have to speak to them and explain them. Look, I just think people are at a point, and it's understandable, where there's a whole lot of confusion.
I thought that was probably one of the most condescending things I have ever heard a president say. Are people confused, Mykel?
I believe that Joe Biden is confused. I mean, he doesn't know that the G7 summit is not nappy time. I mean, he fell asleep at the wheel at the G7 summit, and even one of his aides had to go wake him up. I don't believe that people are confused. People are totally aware of what's going on, and that is a problem. The Democrats cannot finagle their way around anymore. People are starting to wake up. Biden is not ready for the world stage, and at 78 years old, he is the oldest president to ever enter into office. He will never be ready. He is clearly on the decline and now has a pattern of senior moments. So I believe that he's the one that's confused.
Chris, Tuesday night was very exciting for a lot of folks. Now, tell me the truth. Were you surprised by some of the outcomes you saw on Tuesday?
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, the momentum has shown for the last few weeks that Glenn Youngkin was doing very well. I had a chance to interview Glenn Youngkin and win some Sears for my podcast this summer, and I knew what they were all about. I was very impressed with them, and the voters in Virginia were as well.
Allison, I thought it was so extraordinary, as I was in New Jersey for the closing days of this, that Terry McAuliffe said his closing argument was we have too many white teachers. Yeah. Phil Murphy said in his closing argument, we need to protect illegal immigrants. Youngkin and Chitterelli, they were talking about taxes, they were talking about involving parents in education. Do you think that we're seeing kind of a realignment of the whole Democratic Party here?
I think that the Democratic Party is extremely divided, and I think that we are seeing more Democrats go away from being moderate and more towards the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders because they think that's what people want. However, look what happened in Virginia. Yeah. Look what happened, because again, taxes are important, education is important, critical race theory. People are waking up. And I think that the Democratic Party is scared, right? We have the midterms coming up, and obviously people are not for these progressive movements.
All right. Well, we've got a lot more to talk about. I want to thank our panel. We're going to see you at the top of the next hour.